In April 1945, as Berlin crumbled above, the most wanted man in history was sealed 50 feet underground in a concrete tomb. The air was thick with the smell of diesel and despair. But this wasn't just a hiding place. It was the nerve center of a dying empire where a delusional dictator still commanded ghost armies. The official story of Hitler's final days is well known, but the secret timeline reveals an astonishing sequence of events: a desperate dictator, a last-minute wedding, and a chilling final act that historians are still piecing together. What really happened in the last 48 hours of the Third Reich's Führerbunker? The truth is darker than any conspiracy theory. The descent into the lair. By mid-January 1945, the war was effectively lost, and the Soviet Red Army was massing 500,000 soldiers on the Oder River, poised to strike Berlin. Adolf Hitler, once the master of Germany, retreated permanently to the Führerbunker, a reinforced concrete complex deep beneath the Reich Chancellery Garden. This was his new reality, a claustrophobic 18-room shelter, complete with its own ventilation system and power plant, situated nearly 55 feet underground. The atmosphere was far from the grand halls of power. It was damp, noisy with the constant hum of machinery, and filled with the stale smell of diesel fumes. Inside this subterranean prison, Hitler held his final, desperate war conferences, moving pins on maps to command armies that no longer existed. The delusional orders he issued to phantom divisions became a horrifying routine, a sign of a regime collapsing into madness while the world above burned.
Marriage and testament. In the early hours of April 29th, with Russian shells shaking the foundations, Hitler made his final personal decisions. He married his longtime mistress, Eva Braun, in a brief civil ceremony within the bunker's map room. Both swore they were of pure Aryan blood, as a final bizarre nod to Nazi ideology. Following a muted wedding breakfast, Hitler retired to his study to dictate his last will and political testament to his secretary, Traudl Junge. Signed at 4 a.m., these documents were a final screed against the Jews, whom he blamed for the war, and a restructuring of the collapsing German government. He expelled Hermann Göring and Heinrich Himmler for treason and appointed Admiral Karl Dönitz as the new head of state, a man safely far away from Berlin. The logistics of death were quickly put into motion. Hitler ordered his SS physician to test the cyanide capsules he'd received on his beloved German shepherd, Blondie. The dog died instantly, proving the poison's efficacy. The final military collapse. The pretense of victory shattered on April 22, 1945. During a 3-hour military conference in the bunker, Hitler was informed that the forces he relied upon to defend Berlin had failed completely. This news triggered an infamous, hysterical outburst, a screaming denunciation of universal treason and failure. For the first time, Hitler admitted the war was lost. He declared his intention to stay in Berlin and commit suicide rather than face capture or the disgrace of capitulation, a resolve solidified by the news of Benito Mussolini's brutal public execution by Italian partisans a few days later. Above ground, Soviet forces advanced relentlessly, reaching the Potsdamer Platz by April 28th, less than a kilometer from the bunker entrance. The sounds of continuous shelling became the bunker's permanent, terrifying soundtrack, signaling the end was hours away, not days. The final hours. On the morning of April 30th, 1945, life in the bunker devolved into final goodbyes and preparations for death. Hitler appeared in the corridor around 2:30 a.m. to shake hands with about 20 staff members, offering a few quiet words of thanks before retiring to his private suite with Eva Braun. Around 3:30 p.m., the sound of a single gunshot echoed through the concrete corridors. In their private room, Eva Braun had taken a cyanide capsule and died instantly. Hitler simultaneously bit into a cyanide capsule and shot himself in the right temple with his service pistol. His personal adjutant, Otto Günsche, and other SS officers entered the room shortly after. They wrapped the two bodies in wool blankets, carried them up the emergency stairs through the smoke and shelling, and laid them in a shallow bomb crater in the Chancellery Garden. Fire and ashes. Following his instructions to avoid falling into enemy hands, the SS officers drenched the bodies in petrol. Due to the intense continuous shelling, the initial attempt to light the pyre was done by tossing a lit rag from the bunker exit. The cremation was hasty and incomplete, lasting for hours while guards stood by. When the Red Army finally secured the Chancellery grounds days later, their counterintelligence unit, SMERSH, located and exhumed the burnt remains. The bodies were identified primarily through dental records provided by Hitler's dentist, the key definitive proof historians rely on today. The Soviets transported the remains to Magdeburg in East Germany, keeping the location a closely guarded secret to prevent the site from becoming a neo-Nazi shrine. Finally, in 1970, the KGB ordered the remains exhumed one last time, fully cremated and scattered secretly into the Ella River, ensuring no final resting place for the dictator who plunged the world into war. All that truly remains today is a single jawbone and skull fragment held in Russian archives.